Nepal is going through a bumpy transition from the world's only Hindu monarchy to now a secular democracy. It's been 6 years since the fall of monarchy, but Nepal is yet to have a new constitution. The first Constituent Assembly, elected in 2008, formed 11 thematic committees to draft the provisions for a new charter. But it failed to promulgate a constitution despite several extensions of its term. The second assembly, elected last year, has promised that Nepal will have a new charter within a year. The country's Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Prakash Singh, hopes that a new constitution will be in place by January 22, 2015. Mr. Singh is a leader of the Nepali Congress Party and the son of Mr. Ganesh Man Singh, who was the commander of the Nepalese Democratic Movement in 1990.
During the first Constituent Assembly, during the 4-year term, the thematic committees had done a lot of work. Now on that basis, there are 5 thematic committees that's working seriously. We hope that a democratic constitution will be promulgated by January 22nd, 2015. If you observe the proceeding, how the CA is going, it's going according to the calendar that has been prepared, and all the major political parties are focusing regarding promulgating of a new constitution within the stipulated time. We are working hard, and the government is concentrating so that a democratic constitution gets promulgated by January 22nd, 2015.
Mr. Singh said there are some strong disagreements between his party and the Maoist party. The dispute is over issues such as the form of government, the model of federalism, and the judiciary.
There are certain issues, like state restructuring, federalism, state restructuring issue is quite complicated. The Maoist party, they want federalism to be based on a single ethnic identity. We say that ethnicity is not only the basis of identity. Since Nepal, it's a multi-religious country, it's a multilingual country. It should be based on identity as well as on the capability to sustain the federal states. Regarding the independence of judiciary also, there's a marked difference. According to the Maoist, they are saying that, after the promulgation of a new constitution, in the legislature parliament, there should be a committee which controls the court, So we say that, it's against the theory of separation of power, and we are for judiciary should be independent, totally. And regarding form of government also, they are for presidential type of government, whereas Nepali Congress, we are for parliamentary form of government. That is, the Prime Minister should get elected by the lower parliament, and it should be responsible towards the parliament. And the president should be a constitutional president with the electoral college of both central and state assembly will elect a president. So that's the difference between the Unified Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist, and ours.
Mr. Singh believes that a trade-off is the best way forward to have a new constitution in place.
The document will be a compromise document, and all the parties know we have to promulgate a new constitution, a democratic constitution, and there should be certain give and take while promulgating the new constitution in time.
During the first Constituent Assembly, political parties sought to build consensus over all provisions of the constitution. The interim charter states that if consensus cannot be achieved, the assembly should go for voting. But voting was never held. Now, Mr. Singh's party plans to follow the procedure as laid down by the interim constitution.
The weakness of the first CA was that, we went harping for consensus, but we forgot the procedure, the democratic procedure. So this time, we'll give the maximum time for consensus. But if consensus is not over there, then we'll have to go for a democratic process, that is voting.
Call it a blessing or a curse, Nepal lies between two Asian rivals, India and China. New Delhi accuses Beijing of trying to diplomatically encircle India. But in Nepal, China doesn't have a greater influence than India. Mr. Singh's party is widely seen as pro-India, unlike the Maoists who seemingly believe in counterbalancing India's influence with that of China. Many Nepalese analysts accuse India of interference. Some blame New Delhi even for the delay in the promulgation of Nepal's new constitution. But Mr. Singh denies any interference by India, maintaining that Nepal's future depends on its own lawmakers.
It will depend upon the political parties of Nepal. So it will depend upon the performance, and it will depend upon the activeness of the Nepali political parties. Well, there should be good moral support from both the neighboring countries.
Mr. Singh believes that Nepal can have good relations with both India and China.
We are in between two Asian big countries, India and China, and we have good relations with both. And we know that, since China, India is also progressing economically. We have to take the benefit so that the development process also goes ahead in our own country. It will be good for both India and China if Nepal is a stable, peaceful country and democratic country.
China's key interest in Nepal is Tibetan refugees. Beijing expects Nepal to check anti-China protests or demonstrations by Tibetans. It is believed that Nepal's relations with China can be measured by how Kathmandu deals with Tibetans. Mr. Singh claims that Nepal cracks down on Tibetans merely to protect the security of its neighboring countries.
Well, we have a one-China policy, and we don't want our territory to be used against our neighborly countries. It's a very sensitive issue, and we are aware of it.
There are many issues in Nepal, but what the people want the most is that the lawmakers would keep their promise of giving Nepal a new charter within a year. Only then will this nation move on to address other challenges such as the economy, infrastructure, and social inclusion.